what we talked about why microkernel is very important for a more secure system, OS. Okay. Next, I will talk about shared ecosystem. This is from the developer perspective. Today, the biggest challenge for the developers is that developers, they always want to reach maximum of audience and customers, right? And so developers always wanted to have their apps running across multiple devices. But the challenge is that today's different device runs different OS. So developers have to develop different versions of their apps across different devices. And that means a lot of resources and cost for the developers. So in the future, we are hoping to provide a unified tool and developing environment so they could develop only one project, one code base, and we automatically adapt them to multiple devices. Okay. Some device has a bigger screen, some device has a smaller screen. So it means that the layout has to change, right? Some device maybe does not even have a screen in the first place, like smart speakers. Okay. So this IDE will enable the developers to develop one app and automatically adapt to multiple devices. Okay, so we use technologies like tagged widgets, okay, and adaptive layouts. What does tagged widgets mean? For example, in this example, this is a music player app. We're expecting this music player app to be available on smartphone, head unit in the car, and smart TV, right? So when you're building this one, we have the widget. You can drag and drop the widget, and so there's one widget called CD album art. Okay, album art, and there's another widget called maybe lyrics. Okay, so on the album art widget, so it's tagged as smartphone, car head unit, and smart TV. So which means on these three smart devices, it will display album art. However, the lyrics is tagged in a different approach. Lyrics will be tagged only for smartphone and smart TV, not car, right? Because you're not supposed to look at the lyrics when you're driving. That's dangerous, right? So when these widgets are tagged differently, they can be automatically adapt to different layouts. Okay, so lyrics will not show up in car head unit software. And also depending on the size of the screen, okay, the position and the layout of the album art and the lyrics may differ from the smartphone screen and the smart TV screen, and all of that is done automatically by the OS. Okay, as a developer, you don't need to worry about that. Okay, but of course you can adjust that based on your preference. It's a very simple tool. You can just simply drag and drop these widgets from their panel into your apps. Okay. And also, developers also may worry. Okay, all of this sounds great, Harmony OS, but do I need to learn a new coding language to develop Harmony OS apps? Okay. No, you don't need to do that. Harmony OS comes with something called R Compiler. R Compiler works with all the modern computing language that developers are already familiar with. Okay, you can write Java code, C++ code, even Kotlin. They all works with Harmony OS. Okay, so you can already use this language you're already familiar with to develop apps for Harmony OS. Okay. And also, all this distributed architecture I talked about before sounds great. Okay, one app can work across different devices. Okay, using screen of this device, microphone of another device. But as a developer, how can I develop apps works on different devices? So just now I show you these 4 building blocks, right? This with virtual bus, this with data management. So all of this we give API and Kit to developers. Okay, so that developers can leveraging this Kit, they could develop distributed apps works on distributed devices the same way as if they're developing apps for one device. Okay, so we can, because we think that what's important in the future is the ecosystem, right? Yes, Huawei as a company, we could develop a lot of showcase to demonstrate the capability of distributed architecture. But what's more important is the whole ecosystem can follow along, and they could contribute, and they have a lot of amazing ideas how these different devices should work together, and they should be able to do that just as we do. Okay. And this is the roadmap of Harmony OS. And look at the title. Okay. First, we want to say let's have a roadmap, and then it says have a history and roadmap. Okay. Why that's important? Because if you look at history, we started out in 2017. Actually, if you look at IoT, it's even longer than that. So we started to develop Harmony kernel back from 2017, and in 2018 we have used Harmony kernel on the TEE of Huawei smartphone. Okay, and starting from 2019, we're developing other key components of Harmony OS. For example, distributed architecture, ARC compiler, deterministic latency engine, etc. Okay, so. Harmony OS, not as rumored as that it started out after May 16th. Okay, that's not the case. It started long before that. Because why? Because we see the future is the IoT, connected world. Okay, and we saw all these challenges that I talked before, and so we're starting to working on it long before that. And also, the seamless AI Lab strategy started out last year, okay, already. So this is something that we have already been working on, okay. It's only been accelerated by the current event, all right, the issues. And so this is the technology roadmap, and this is the product roadmap. So this year we're rolling out Harmony OS on the smart TV that we're launching in China, and next year we're bringing to smart watches. And head units in car, and then speakers and headsets. Okay, so you might ask, where is the smartphone? Okay, for smartphone, because the ecosystem that smartphone already have a very successful, huge ecosystem. So our priority is, as long as we could continue to use Android, we will continue to use Android on smartphone and tablets. Okay, but Harmony OS will be ready in case anything else happens. Okay, so that's our strategy for smartphone and tablets. By default, it's always Android. Okay. So, and then people might have this question. A lot of people have this question: why do you think Harmony OS have a chance in the future? The most important reason is that because people have this perception that Harmony OS is an OS which is an alternative to Android and iOS. Okay, so this is the perception people used to have, which is not correct. Okay, which I already showed you today. That Harmony OS is a microkernel-based distributed OS for all scenarios. It's not an alternative for Android, and that's important because if it's alternative for Android, and that's where the puck is. Okay, but what we're aiming for is where the puck will be. Okay, what the puck will be is the IoT, is the connected world in the future, where we don't know if smartphone is still going to be your main device 5 years down the road. Okay, nobody knows that. Okay, we think the future of smart consumer market is connected world, is IoT. You have multiple smart devices, and that requires a new OS for that. And so that's where we're heading. We think future is heading there, and we're heading there. Okay, so we're not making an alternative for Android. We're making an OS for future connected world. Another reason we have a confidence in this is that we decided that Harmony OS will be open source to the community. Okay, because we always believe that more people, not only people from Huawei, if we involve more developers, more technology companies out there into the community, we can make Harmony OS a better OS over time. Okay, and so with that, I think that's what I'd like to share about Harmony OS today, and I hope it answers most of the questions regarding Harmony OS. And thank you for your attention. And we'll have a Q&A session starting now. So if you have a question regarding Harmony OS, you can ask me now. Okay. And after that, we'll have a break and we'll continue with another session, which is EMUI 10. Okay. So questions for Harmony OS.